Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What if the highest ecstasies in love of Godhead were experienced in a mood of separation from the Lord? What if? Well, it's not a what if. The teachers and the saints and the acharyas in line of succession from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirm that a mood of a feeling of emptiness, or like someone would feel if they loved another person very, very much. So much so that they really didn't even want to live without them. And that person was gone. Now that's going to be a deep, profound feeling of emptiness or separation. It's just a way to try to compare or try to understand by looking at something in this world what that feeling of separation from God, personality of Godhead, might be like. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And nobody asks for that. Mostly people are running around trying to connect with other people, or even with, in a religious way, God as they understand Him, so they can be happy and they can enjoy and they can feel elated. Mostly that's what people are looking for. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So for the Lord to advertise that the highest thing is a mood of separation. Krishna. Let me go to another store. I don't like what they have to offer at this store. Let me go to another store. Hare Krishna, but it's actually the case. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. And that feeling of emptiness or need to fill it. Some people, like, they eat to try and fill it, or they fill it with all kinds of busy activities. And if it's a devotee, it's busy activities for Krishna. Anything to try to avoid experiencing that intense, heavy feeling of separation. Such an intense, heavy feeling. Or other people might try to fill it with intoxication or some other kind of anything. Do anything to get away from that feeling of separation. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He's talking with a devotee last night about learning to tolerate And for the last few days, I've been taking some serious looks at how we're affected not just in the mind by things that happen, but also physiologically. It's all connected. Body and the mind is connected. And it was becoming more clear to me that that's what conditioning is. Material conditioning is the mind and the body reacting on the material plane. And part of that is, that mechanism is to fight or flight. It's the adrenaline response, which is physiological to something that a person is confronted with, and then there's a conditioned response. The adrenaline starts to flow, and then it's either fight or run away. This is the conditioning. Like, maybe we just don't like another person, and if we can't kill them because we don't like what we're experiencing in their association, and we don't want to be around it for one reason or another, then we might just avoid them and go away. So the devotee I was talking with said, yeah, that's what you have to do. Just avoid him. Maybe not. Maybe that's just a conditioned response. Hey, Madhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. It's like avoiding Krishna mood of separation. No one likes to feel it. Everybody's trying to fill that. They'll do anything not to experience this feeling of helplessness and separation. Since Krishna's the life of all that lives, if you're feeling separation from Krishna, you're feeling separation from the life of all that lives. He's more than that too, but that's one way to understand Krishna as the life of all that lives. The personality of Godhead. So feeling separation from Krishna, feeling separation from the life of all that lives. Nobody wants to feel that. So fill it up with something. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then I was looking at a conversation that he had with devotee last night. We were talking about the physiological aspect of action and reaction. Conditioning. It's not just your mind thinking a certain way. It's the body physiologically reacts in different ways. So, yeah, the mind is the center of it all for the conditioning, but it doesn't stop there. There's knee-jerk reactions. So, fight and flight, or the adrenaline response, Krishna. It's not that it's not valid, because there might be a danger there, and that's an alert system. But if it isn't in connection with Krishna consciousness, then it's a materially conditioned response. Psychology looks at those kinds of things. With People have these patterns that don't always work in their best interest. It might have been a pattern that was helpful like 40 years ago, assuming the person is an adult, but isn't helpful now. The conditioned responses, patterns of thinking, yes, but also physiological. There's a connection. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Learning how to tolerate so that you don't lose Krishna consciousness in the process. It's not a matter of denial. It's a matter of an added dimension. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. These are the kinds of things I'm looking at. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Anyway, it's just me. Everybody else is very happy. Very busy. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And I'm sometimes diving deep into this kind of mood of separation. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. What next, Krishna? What next? What are you going to throw at me next? Good grief. Hare Krishna, I can get up. Ooh. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. So I was with a group of devotees last night we have a regular program on Friday nights. And it's a pretty far out place. There's a lot going on there. It's 5 acres, and there's a lot of people camped out on those 5 acres. And you got the dreadlock crowd, and it's pretty far out over there. And then you have some Brahmins, and a couple Kshatriya types, and some Sudras, and then you've got the dreadlock crowd. It's pretty interesting over there, actually. Everybody camped out. So the verse, we chanted for a while. I posted the kirtans, and then Hare Krishna. I thought we did chapter 7. Yeah, it was. Chapter 7, text 15. We all took turns reading from the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita as it is, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And Namam, it's text 7, chapter 7, text 15. Namam diskritino mudha prapadyante naradama mayaya parita jnana asuram bhavam asrita. Translation: those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. And there's a discussion of the different types. The mudhas, the grossly foolish, hard-working beasts of burden, trying to enjoy the fruits of their labor. They work like an ass does for its master, carrying heavy loads, under fear of being beaten. And the position of the foolish worker who does not know for whom he should work, does not know that karma or action is meant for sacrifice. So that's the mudha. And then the diskritina, the miscreant, or the naradama, the lowest of mankind. So Prabhupada discusses here a little bit about civilized human beings and uncivilized human beings. There are 8,400,000 species of living beings described in the Vedas, and there are 400,000 human species, mostly uncivilized. And then he describes what a civilized human being is. They're those who have regulated principles of political and religious life. Those who are socially and politically developed but have no religious principles are naradamas. Nor is religion without God a religion. The purpose of following religious principles is to know the supreme truth and man's relationship with Him. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. And then the third class is Duskritina. That is Mayaya Parita Jnana, or those whose erudite knowledge has been nullified by the influence of material energy. They're learned fellows, philosophers, poets, literati, scientists, but the illusory energy misguides them and they disobey the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada says there are a great number of Mayaya Parita Jnanas at the moment, even amongst the scholars of the Gita. In plain and simple language in the Gita, it's stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no one equal to or greater than Him. But these Mayaya Parita Jnana deride the personality of the Supreme Lord, consider Him merely another human being, a historical person. Hare Krishna. And the fourth class, Duskritina, they're all Duskritina, but this is the fourth class, is called Asuram Bhavam Asrita, those who are outwardly demoniac, atheistic. They argue the Supreme Lord can never descend upon this world. but they're unable to give any tangible reasons as to why not. Others make him subordinate to the impersonal feature, although the opposite is declared in the Gita. They present a number of illicit incarnations manufactured in the factory of their brain because of enviousness of the actual personality of Godhead. Such persons whose very principle of life is to decry the personality of Godhead cannot surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So, Prabhupada, in part of the purport, refers to the deliverance of Jagai and Madhai by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, when the whole population becomes Naradama, naturally all their so-called education is made null and void by the all-powerful energy of physical nature. According to the conditioned response, if this then that, material nature. According to the standard of the Gita, a learned man is he who sees on equal terms the learned Brahmin, the dog, the cow, the elephant, and the dog-eater. That is the vision of a true devotee. Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is the incarnation of Godhead as Divine Master, delivered the typical Naradamas, the brothers Jagai and Madhai, and showed how the mercy of a real devotee is bestowed upon the lowest of mankind. So the Naradama, who is condemned by the personality of Godhead, can again revive his spiritual consciousness only by the mercy of a devotee. And that pastime, Prabhupada refers to that pastime as the devotee delivering the most sinful. Jagai and Madhai, they had sunk to the level of thieves, murderers, rapists, alcoholic, whatever drugs were available at the time. They'd sunk pretty low. In the area where they lived, everyone was very much afraid of them. It's interesting why they weren't ever arrested or apprehended and how they were able to get away with so much sinful activity. But it's not mentioned, like, where were the police? Whatever. But they were very, everyone was very much afraid of them. When they saw them on the street or coming anywhere, everyone would scatter. They didn't want to be around them. They're always in an intoxicated state, just looking for trouble. So Nityananda and Haridas Thakur were out and about, spreading the good news. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Hare Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, go back home, take part in the Sankirtan Yajna, surrender to Krishna, out and about with the good news. And they saw these two. And Nityananda, all right, if these two can be delivered, then we know the whole world can be delivered. Because these are the pits. These are the worst of the worst. These are the nastiest, most dangerous, vilest. Two men anywhere. They're awful. They're just awful. So dangerous. So they approached him. And Nityananda, my dear sirs, please surrender to the Lord. Make your life perfect, or whatever. I don't know exactly, but he approached them. Take this Hare Krishna mantra. Take it and develop love of God. And they're like drunk. I was like, no. No way. No way, Jose. And I think we're going to just have a little destructive fun with you. I guess they saw him as kind of like this flaky, naive, like foolish person or something. And they attacked him. Yeah. They ran after Nityananda and Haridas. They ran. And a report got back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu what Nityananda and Haridas had tried to do. He's very pleased. It's like, oh yes, we have to deliver them. Very nice. So, the next day, Nityananda and Haridas, they went out and they found these two again, and they approached them again. This time, I don't know if it was Jagai or Madai. They were brothers. I don't know which one. But one of them picked up a broken piece of pottery, and maybe what they had been drinking out of and had smashed or something. A piece of pottery. And bashed Nityananda on the head. Cut him on the head with it. If he could have killed him, he would have. In drunken stupor. And said that the blood was coming out. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately appeared on the spot, ready to, the Sudarshan disc. Just gonna Jagai Madhai, that's it. No, you don't do that. No. Nityananda intervened. He said, I don't mind that you hit me. I don't mind you assaulted me. I don't mind the wound. I don't mind. Just let them chant. Just surrender. It doesn't matter that you've hurt me. It doesn't matter. I'm hurt and wounded, lying here like this. It doesn't matter. Take the mercy. And when, I don't know which brother it was, Jagai, Adai, one of them, when he saw what he could understand, whoa, oh, Krishna, yeah, Krishna, he realized what was going on, that he was there in the presence of the Lord. Immediately he surrendered. The other one was still like, yeah, let's finish him off. But no, you surrendered. The other brother made him also surrender. They both surrendered. They actually achieved the platform of pure devotion. And one of them, I think it was Madhai, took as a personal service to excavate, I think it was Radha Kund, one of the holy sites. These things had become covered over. 5,000 years ago, Krishna appeared, and he's still being worshipped, but a lot of the holy places had fallen into disrepair and were covered over. Radhakund was completely covered over. I believe he took that as his humble service. So Prabhupada explains this by the mercy of a devotee. And he can again revive his spiritual consciousness. We see that with, of course, Lord Jesus. It doesn't matter what they've done to me. Forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. Forgive them. In other words, deliver them, forgive them. They don't know. And also we see with Haridas Thakur later, being dragged through marketplaces and beaten under the order of the leader of the community, the government. I think it was a Muslim they had complained about him. Someone, I don't know, I have to go back and look at the pastime again, why he was being beaten. I think he was seen as a disturbance because a lot of people were hearing from him, especially the young men, and it was causing a disturbance because they were becoming more interested in their spiritual life than fruit of activity. Something like that. So that's what happens. You have to expect you approach people who are very, very covered over. The only thing they know how to do is offend, really. I had a friend many years ago that used to say that. He said, what do you expect? They don't know how to do anything else. If you tell them about Krishna, that's all they can do, because they're not Krishna conscious. So all they can do is offend you. They can't do anything else. Krishna, he was funny. When he would, his preaching was something like, when he would meet someone who, just, he'd sneeze, but when he sneezed, he'd say, Hare Krishna! That's how he would give the holy name. Hare Krishna! That's quite a character. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Yeah. So the Naradama who is condemned by the personality of Godhead can again revive his spiritual consciousness only by the mercy of a devotee. See how powerful the mercy of a devotee is. King Ambarish, was it Ambarish? Hare Krishna, who was fasting, and it was a special type of fast. He fasted for a whole year. It was a special type of fast. And he needed to break the fast, but right at that time, Durvasa Muni, and he was always evidently accompanied by thousands of disciples, they appeared as a guest. He's a great, powerful, mystic yogi. When people do a lot of austerities, they become very powerful, but also very hard-hearted and rigid from all their austerities. And as was customary for a king to receive a saintly person, he had to prepare some food for them. And the guest doesn't eat, the host doesn't eat before the guest. So he needed to break, in order, when you fast, when a person fasts, spiritually or whatever, there's a certain time where you break the fast. Otherwise, even though you observed a fast for whatever period of time, if you don't break it at the appropriate time, all your fasting goes for naught, because it has to be broken at a certain time. So there's a science to fasting. All the benefit and whatever that you would get from that fast, you don't get it because you didn't break it at the right time. So the time was there, he had to break the fast. But Durvasa arrived, and according to hospitality, Vedic hospitality, he couldn't eat until Durvasa ate. What to do? He had to break it now. So he suggested that they go take their baths, and when they came back, then there would be a nice feast for them. So while Durvasa and his disciples were bathing in the river, or the Ghat, or wherever they were bathing, Maharaj Ambarish, he may have consulted the Brahmins, but he decided that he could take water. Because sometimes water breaks a fast and sometimes it doesn't. So he thought, well, I'll just take a little water and then my fast will still be good. I won't lose all the benefits for this whole year of fasting. I'll take some water. Durvasa Muni, he had these mystic powers. He could understand. He's broken the rules. He's eaten before we have. And where are these his guests? He became very angry. And he cursed Maharaja Ambarish for his indiscretion in not treating him properly according to his position and stature. He was very powerful. He's a great mystic yogi. And you dared to do that? I'll teach you a lesson. He cursed him. Well, Maharaja Ambarish happened to be a devotee. And Lord Vishnu wasn't going to stand for that. Okay. So he started to get chased, Maharaj Durvasa Muni, by the Sudarshan Chakra, which is a weapon specifically aimed at severing the head from the body. So he began to run, and he tried to find shelter, and he could feel the chakra coming after him. He could feel it. It was coming. He could feel it. And he tried to take shelter. Can't remember all the places he tried to take shelter. Tried to take shelter of Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva said, I can't help you. This is Vishnu. You have to go to Vishnu. So he was so powerful, this Durvasa Muni, he actually entered Vaikuntha. He actually attained darshan with Vishnu. He was that powerful, just under his own power, which is extraordinary. But Lord Vishnu told him, it's my Sudarshan chakra, but I can't stop it. I can't stop it. Because you committed a great offense to one of my devotees. And the only way you're going to get relief is if you take shelter of the devotee. You have to go to Maharaj Ambarish and apologize. Offer obeisances. You have to fall at his feet and say, oops, I made a mistake. Please forgive me. Which he did. So how powerful is a devotee of the Lord? How powerful. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Krishna is always protecting his devotees. And evidently, celebration for Lord Nrsimhadev is coming up in a few days. I think next Tuesday, the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev will be celebrated all over the planet. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hey! Tamasanya. Hare Krishna. Legacy Park this afternoon. Harinam. I hear there could be a large crowd, that Vaishnavi is bringing a whole crowd with her for Harinam in Legacy Park. But of course we never know what's going to happen. Anyway, 6 o'clock, Legacy Park. Hare Krishna. So finishing up the pastime of the Shamantaka Jewel, reading from a summary study of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. So we're almost to the end of an account of the pastime. This took place 5,000 years ago when Krishna was on the planet, and Satyajit had a kingdom. He was a king, and he was a worshipper of the sun god. The sun god was pleased with him and gave him a very valuable jewel. He used to wear the jewel and walk through Dwarka, and the jewel was so dazzling, everyone thought the sun god had come to visit Krishna. And because they knew Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that the demigods would come to visit Krishna. So they thought, oh, the sun god's come to visit Krishna. But Krishna said, no, it's Satyajit. He's just showing off. He's making a show. He never did go to see Krishna. He just walked around the city having everyone think he was the sun god. Silly, silly person. But the jewel also was able to produce 170 pounds of gold a day. So he was really attached to this thing. And his son took it one day and put it around his neck and went riding around, show off the family opulence, and he was attacked by a lion in the forest. The lion killed his horse, killed him, took the jewel away. And then Jambavan, the gorilla king, more powerful than the lion evidently, killed the lion, took the jewel away from him, and gave it to his son to play with like a toy. Meanwhile, all the residents of Dwarka, there was a vicious rumor spreading that Krishna had somehow stolen the jewel because he had asked Satyajit to please offer it to Ugrasena so everyone could benefit. But Satyajit refused because he wanted it himself. So, and it was a rumor circulating, Krishna, he got the jewel, he wanted the jewel, Satyajit wouldn't give it, Krishna must have taken it. Well, not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. So Krishna made an arrangement, and it was Krishna, but not directly. Krishna. These are Krishna's pastimes. Everything's being arranged by Krishna. So they all went on a search through the forest, through the jungle, and they found that the horse had been killed, and they found Satyajit's brother was also killed, and they found the lion that was killed by Jambavan, and they found the cave that led to where Jambavan lived in the forest. Hare Krishna. Oh, Haribol. Nice, yeah. Hare Krishna. Krishna. Yeah, learning how to relish these pastimes. Learning how to do that. Krishna. Krishna. So there was a fight that took place. As Krishna went in the cave, there was a fight that took place for like 28 days. And Jambavan didn't realize that it was Krishna, because Jambavan was actually a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra. And Krishna is Ramachandra. And he didn't realize that he was fighting with the very person that he loved with all his heart and soul. His master, the personality of Godhead, is Ramachandra, now is Krishna. And then he began to realize, because he became weaker and weaker after 28 days of fighting, and he realized that no one could defeat him except for God. He was fighting with God. He was fighting with Krishna. He was fighting with Lord Ramachandra. But Prabhupada explains that Krishna arranged that because sometimes Krishna likes to fight. So he picks a devotee and they have fun. Krishna was enjoying it thoroughly, but the whole time Jambavan was fighting with Krishna, he didn't know it was Krishna. So it's that agyata sukriti. And he surrendered. And he offered the most beautiful prayers. He glorified Ramachandra, and he glorified that whole pastime. That you're not only the creator of the creator, but you're the creator of the material elements which are manipulated Yeah. My dear Lord, the time factor, which combines all physical elements, is also your representative. Physical elements, the time factors, like this, he goes on and on and on. He's having realizations. And Krishna rewarded him with Krishna consciousness. Because he was pleased by his service, which was performed Agyata Sukriti. So Lord Krishna became satisfied by the prayers and statements of Jambavan, and to mitigate the pains of his body, he began to smear the lotus palm of his hand all over the body of Jambavan. Jambavan at once felt relieved from the fatigue of the great fight. Lord Krishna then addressed him as King Jambavan, because he, and not the lion, was actually the king of the forest. With his naked hand, without a weapon, Jambavan had killed the lion. Krishna informed Jambavan that he had come to ask him for the Shamantaka jewel, because since the Shamantaka jewel had been stolen, his name had been defamed by the less intelligent. Krishna plainly informed him that he had come there to ask him for the jewel in order to be free from this defamation. Jambavan understood the whole situation, and to satisfy the Lord, he not only immediately delivered the Shamantaka jewel, but he also brought his daughter Jambavati, who was of marriageable age, and presented her to Lord Krishna. Now, this is always something that I still don't have much. There's a lot that I don't have clarification of. But this is, here it comes. Jambavan's a gorilla. He's in the form of a gorilla. So what form is his daughter in? She's the daughter of a gorilla king. So is she like her body all covered with hair, and she kind of walks around like I mean, what's going on here? I'm praying, Krishna, please help me with this. I want to know. And there's a group that meets on Zoom, and sometimes they have an open session where you can ask any question you want. Guess what question I'm going to ask? Because the devotees in this group are fairly knowledgeable, and I'm sure they'll be able to shed some light on this. Hare Krishna. Anyway, she became one of Krishna's queens, Jambavati. The episode of Jambavati's marriage with Krishna and the delivery of the jewel known as Shamantaka was finished within the mountain cave. Although the fighting between Krishna and Jambavan went on for 28 days, and after that they decided that something undesirable must have happened. The inhabitants of Dwarka waited outside the tunnel for 12 days. So they were in the tunnel for 28 days fighting. After 12 days, the residents of Dwarka, they decided something terrible must have happened. They could not understand what had actually happened for certain, and being very sorry and tired, they returned to the city of Dwarka. All members of the family, namely the mother of Krishna, Devaki, his father Vasudeva, and his chief wife Rukmini, along with all other friends, relatives, and residents of the palace, became very sorry when the citizens returned home without Krishna. Because of their natural affection for Krishna, they began to call Satyajit ill names. I don't even want to go there, what ill names they called Satyajit. I don't want to go there. For he was the cause of Krishna's disappearance. They went to worship the goddess Chandrabhaga, praying for the return of Krishna. The goddess was satisfied by the prayers of the citizens of Dwarka, and she immediately offered them her benediction. Simultaneously, Krishna appeared on the scene, accompanied by his new wife, Jambavati. All the inhabitants of Dwarka and relatives of Krishna became joyful. These pastimes are performances. It's a play of the internal energy. We're also engaged in pastimes, but it's a play of the external energy, and it always ends badly. But this is a play of the internal energy, and it always ends blissfully. It's a play. It's a pastime. I mean, just look at the timing of this. They went and they worshipped goddess Chandrabhaga. She was satisfied with the prayers of the citizens and offered them benediction. Simultaneously, Krishna appeared on the scene, accompanied by Jambavati. The inhabitants of Dwarka became as joyful as someone receiving their dear relative back from the dead. The inhabitants of Dwarka had concluded that Krishna had been put into great difficulties due to the fighting. Therefore, they had become almost hopeless of his return. But when they saw that Krishna had actually returned, not alone, but with a new wife, Jambavati, they immediately performed another celebration ceremony. King Ugrasena, I really like to hear a description of Jambavati's bodily features. And Krishna could marry someone, and everyone could accept it that was from the Simian race, Simian class. I mean, he could. There's no doubt about that. I mean, if he can lift Govardhan Hill on the little finger of his, was it left hand? Right hand? Whatever hand. Lifted it, and everyone stayed under it for how many days? 7 days? Whatever. While torrents of rain were raged down by Indra, and no one there witnessing all of this related to Krishna in any other way other than he was a little boy, the son of Nanda and Yasoda, then certainly he could bring home Jambavati and no one would notice anything. Unusual. Krishna, I don't know. Somebody's got to help me with this. I can hardly wait till this group meets and I can pop the question. I threw him a hot potato the other day. They did really well with it. It was the Prabhupada was poisoned hot potato. They did really well with that. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So we'll pop this one on him. What were Jambavati's bodily features? Hare Krishna! Krishna's not an ordinary person, that's for sure. King Ugrasena then called for a meeting of all important kings and chiefs. He also invited Satyajit, and Krishna explained before the whole assembly the incident of the recovery of the jewel from Jambavati. Krishna wanted to return the valuable jewel to King Satyajit. All Krishna wanted to do was clear his name because everyone was saying that he'd done this terrible thing, which he hadn't done. Satyajit, however, became ashamed because he had unnecessarily defamed Krishna. What to speak of losing his brother? He accepted the jewel in his hand, but he remained silent, bending his head downwards, and without speaking anything, in the assembly of the kings and chiefs, he returned home with the jewel. So Krishna gave him the jewel, but he was terribly ashamed. He just couldn't enjoy it anymore. He went home. Because part of his enjoyment for the jewel was to wear it and have everybody look at him like he was the sun god and how opulent he was with his gold. But now, everybody hated him. He saw what a he was exposed for being a complete idiot and envious of Krishna. And he lost his brother. So he took the jewel from Krishna. Then he thought about how he could clear himself from the abominable action he had performed by defaming Krishna. He was conscious he had offended Krishna very grievously, and that he had to find a remedial measure so that Krishna would again be pleased with him. King Satyajit was eager to get relief from the anxiety he had foolishly created due to being attracted by a material thing, specifically the Shamataka jewel. Satyajit was truly afflicted by the offense he had committed toward Krishna, and he sincerely wanted to rectify it. From within, Krishna gave him good intelligence, and Satyajit decided to hand over to Krishna both the jewel and his beautiful daughter Satyabhama. There was no alternative for mitigating the situation, and therefore he arranged a marriage ceremony of Krishna with his beautiful daughter. Now, with Jambavan, it doesn't say beautiful daughter, it says daughter of marriageable age. I've got to know. I've got to get to the bottom of this. So he handed over his beautiful daughter Satyabhama. There was no alternative for mitigating the situation. He gave in charity both the jewel and his daughter to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Satyabhama was so beautiful and qualified that Satyajit, in spite of being asked for the hand of Satyabhama by many princes, was waiting to find a suitable son-in-law. By the grace of Krishna, he decided to hand his daughter over to him. Lord Krishna, being pleased upon Satyajit, informed him that he did not have any need of the Shamataka jewel. It is better to let it remain in the temple as you have kept it, he said, and every one of us will derive benefit from the jewel. Because of the jewel's presence in the city of Dwarka, there will be no more famine or disturbances created by pestilence or excessive heat and cold. Yeah, because of the jewel, right. Hare Krishna. Woo! So now Krishna has 3 queens. He has Rukmini, and no children yet. Pradyumna hasn't appeared yet. He's the son of Rukmini. He hasn't taken birth yet. But he has 3 queens, all due to his extraordinary exploits. He's won them. He kidnapped Rukmini. He fought for Jambavan. He fought Jambavan for Jambavati, received her as a prize. And now also, Satyajit, wanting to satisfy Krishna for his offenses, has given a gift, his daughter. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So it looks like, in the next chapter, the killing of Satyajit and Satadhanva, it looks like Satyajit kind of, we're going to find out what happens with this, why he was killed, because he's pleased Krishna. Let's see what happens with that. Looks like he's not completely off the hook. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna.